Welcome back. Fun episode today. I've got Keith Goode, CEO of ZeroedIn Technologies. Keith, how are you today?
Great. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Nelson.
All right, let's start with ZeroedIn. Tell me about your company and give me kind of the growth story, where you started and where you are now.
Yeah, it's a great company. So where we started was back in the early 90s, believe it or not. We kind of worked together on developing a learning management system in that HR space. And we found out that from an HR human resource environment perspective, the systems they use are very siloed. You've got your payroll systems, your learning management systems, your benefit systems, your overall HRS system. And so these are often very siloed. And they all do a great job of managing transactions, but where they lack is being able to do reporting about a person across all the board. For example, how does compensation and learning impact the performance of the person? So we developed ZeroedIn to help bridge that gap, to provide analytics for organizations' most valuable resource, their people. And it's been great ever since. We work with fantastic clients, both in the private and public sector. So we do a lot of work in the federal government space. And yeah, it's been a great journey.
Okay, I've got a lot of questions. Let's start with the actual product. You said you started in the early 90s. What did it look like then, and what does it look like now? A lot of changes along the way.
Actually, yeah. So my colleague and I started the company, we worked together back in the 90s. So we saw a lot of systems come and go, but it really wasn't until the mid to late 2000s that we started ZeroedIn, 15 years. And what did it look like back then? It was basically working on pulling data together. That's what our forte was. We knew that the bread and butter was being able to pull data from multiple disparate systems and create a common core that reporting could be built over top of it. And back then, reporting was fairly simple. Basic dashboards, pivot tables, graphing capability. But since then, it's really exploded.
Okay. And so how would companies, so for instance, my company, we run on Gusta. Okay. That's our HR platform. So where would your technology either integrate or replace something that I'm working with and something I'm doing in Gusta?
Yeah, so we would be an add-on component. We typically integrate with HR systems, HRS systems. We'd be collecting data. We're not a transactional-based system, so no one's going in to record someone's time or to enter a record on someone's learning experience. We're not that. We collect data from those different systems. If you wanted to, say, identify people from Gusta, but then figure out, how has learning impacted their journey? How has their performance management? What did they look like before? What information can we correlate with that maybe came from their resume or from their talent management? Often that type of information is kept outside in different systems. So we're able to pull all that together and make a better view for you across your employee population.
Okay. And I want to ask a little bit about your growth strategy. You said you've done things in the private and public sector. Let's talk about the public sector, because I think this is an area where I hear entrepreneurs a lot say, oh, yeah, I'd love to get into some of that government contract work. And I know I've looked into it as well. And it feels like those projects are great. And so many times what I've ran into is that you're filling out a very long application to get in there. And they get to that point where it's like, name 4 other government entities you've worked with. And you're like, I'm trying to get my foot in the door. I need my first one. Talk to me about how you got started in the public sector and how you've been able to grow that side of your business.
Yes. So we're a small business. So a bit of a niche helps. If we can get a client in a niche market, a niche solution certainly helps to get your foot in the door. The sales cycle is extremely long and difficult. There's a lot of external things you have to do, whether it's FedRAMP, whether it's GSA, all kinds of hoops you have to jump through. So the cost of sales is pretty expensive. But if you can get in and have a niche solution, is a good place to start. We also work in the federal government, mostly in the defense intelligence space. In that space, it's even added level of security, level of things you have to do. And of course, there's the reporting and billing aspect that's very challenging as well with government agencies. You have to be careful what you wish for. Our government clients, on the plus side, it often buffers the economy when the private sector might be struggling and releasing funds and buying new things. Often the public sector is still firing along pretty well, and vice versa. It certainly helps diversify your business as a whole. And of course, supporting the company is quite different. We were just talking about getting in the door, but once you're in the door, supporting them is a challenge. A lot of bureaucracy.
Yeah, I bet navigating all of that can be quite a process, but once you become more experienced, like it sounds like you have, it certainly becomes easier. I think I always tell my 10-year-old, the first time you do something's the worst time you do something. I'm sure
There's other things you can look at doing too. For example, partnering with a large organization, and it's easier if you do have a niche solution. That's a great place to work. And if you partner with that organization that's already in a large contract with IDIQ, you could be a solution on that as well. So there are different avenues to take, and it just really just got to keep at it. I would never discourage anyone from going down that line. When you find a good government client to work with, they can be a strong advocate. The government does some very unique things for advancements of platforms and software. They often speak and will speak at seminars and things like that to help you along. So there are quite a few benefits of working with the government clients.
And I know you mentioned the federal government. Are you also working with local municipalities, counties, that stuff as well?
Yes, we've worked with city governments and municipalities.
Okay, cool. And tell me about your team. How many do you have, and how have you constructed it?
Not that many. Our organization's still pretty small. We're around 10 in the team, and we're structured. So because we're not a transactional-based system, I look for people that have talent and aptitude just around technology, not so much coding, but more around data principles. We do a lot of work with structured query language, with R, with organizing data, and then we work generating statistical models. So someone that has a background in statistics certainly helps, but it's really about first being able to pull data and understand that data in its raw form. And then being able to merge that with other data is really important. And then finally, it's a model generation. The predictive models are important. And so start with looking for people that have an aptitude. Don't have to have a lot of experience on all of those, because once we get someone that has the aptitude, we can give them experience. We do a lot of, with new people, we do a lot of one-on-one coaching, a lot of, okay, this is how I approach this problem. And then once you invent the wheel once, but you just might need to refine it on the next time. But we use a lot of templates and refining what we've done from, let's say, one organization.
Okay. I'm always joke, I'm a big picture guy. The more details, the more I get confused. But if I'm hearing you invest in a lot of smart analytical people, you give them extra tools, and that creates a really great product. And so you are doing that product-led marketing. Is that correct? Like everything is about building a great product first, marketing and sales comes after?
Yeah, we've always been a delivery first, and work with our clients, see what they want, and work with their uniqueness, being able to deliver that, and then marketing is the second. It probably should be reversed, but that's just who we are and how we got here.
Yeah, I think you see product-driven growth a lot in technology. I think there's a reason for that, because when you find something that you really like, or also you really don't like, you tend to get excited about it. You tend to tell people about it. I know anytime I find a new tool, I get super excited and will film like a video with one of my teammates and post it on LinkedIn because I get all excited. And so I think that product-driven growth is a smart way to go. How do you currently structure the sales and marketing along with that? Are you the sales team? Am I talking to the sales team right now?
Nope. I'm the delivery. So our group and our team, we work once we get a new client. A couple of things that we're a little bit unique at. When we get a new client, we keep the same people and build a relationship with that client. So we don't have an implementation team, then they throw it over the fence to someone else. We work with a client. Our team will present a smaller team, data analysts, and we work with implementing that client, understanding data, and staying with them. We offer what we call concierge service as well. Once we've deployed our product and we work with the client, let's suppose a year later, it's like, what? We have this idea. We've got some data that is old. We didn't bring it in initially, but we'd like to bring it in and then model that to come up with a predictive model on X, right? Whatever X might be. Our people that we start implementing with has that institutional knowledge. We stay with them, and with our concierge services, we're always able to say, yeah, don't have to get a new contract. Let's just use our resources and let's explore that a little bit deeper and let's see where it goes. And I think organizations and clients respond to that. They don't feel nickel and dime. And when something comes up, they have resources that they can tap into us on our side. And we've got the data analysis experience, and we can help solve those types of problems with them.
I think that is awesome. And delivering that ultimate customer experience right now is much more rare in tech. I think but even just not having a real hand on it, it's a struggle for a lot of companies. I know we've struggled with this in the past, right? Where you have different people who are good at explaining the products and the strategy behind utilizing them, and then others who are really good at executing the day-to-day and doing the best you can for that handoff. So it's cool to hear that you're able to take all of those skill sets and be able to onboard a customer with the same people and then work with them over the course of years. My question is, with that approach, how are you still able to scale? It's how do you do it? We're all trying to figure this out. So I'm excited.
Yeah, there are certain advantages, and I can see why large organizations have an implementation team and they throw it over the fence and so forth. From a scaling perspective, we can work usually on our average client is anywhere, say, from 10,000 to 15,000 employees, fairly large organizations. And a given resource can work with, say, anywhere from 3 to 4 clients. They stay with them, they become more efficient with them over time. It's a lot easier for us to maybe make a change or to apply something new because we have that institutional knowledge with them. So we do get a little bit of a scale bump in terms of our ability to execute because we've worked with the client so long. But the other aspect of scale is, are we providing something that's valuable and meaningful to the client? And I'd rather be on that side than having a client pissed off because they told someone 50 times, this is how they do it. Then they get someone else new and they have to repeat it 50 more times. I'd rather not have to go down that road and have the client feel, yeah, they get it. They're an extension of our team. I'm not worried about them going anywhere and having to retrain the next person.
Yeah, there's so many different ways to make $1 million, right? You can sell $1 million $1 pencils. That seems a little bit more difficult, but if you're selling a really smart product to a really large organization that requires a lot of adoption on there, and that's probably a way to get there with less than the million clients you can sell those pencils to, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so how do you guys operate internally? What is your tech stack? How do you take a client? What's the CRM, the comms tools? What are you using?
Yeah, so from a technology perspective, we use a lot of our first ETL tools like Tahoe data as well as Boomi. So we start with that for our collection. And by the way, it's not just client data, but we also often go after publicly available data, whether it's Department of Labor, whether it's CMS, a lot of different systems out there we'll go to capture as well. And then we work with each one of our clients. We build out a staging environment, if you will, where we can do a lot of data cleansing. As I mentioned, in the HR space, it's not uncommon for HR to pick the flavor of the month system. So within the last 10 years, it's not uncommon to see a HR organization that's had 2 HRS systems or gone through 3 LMS systems or maybe switch their payroll system around. So what happens to that historical data? Sometimes it's brought forward, but sometimes it's not. And so we'll work with our client because when you're talking about modeling and building out predictive models and so forth, having access and pulling that legacy data is important and can add value. Can we work with their clients in that staging environment to try to bring it together, to make sense of it all, not just the historical data, but with the current data. But we can do a lot of data cleansing, a lot of aggregation, and then it's preparing that data in such a way where whether it's going to be used in a statistical model, predictive model, or ingested into our platform, We can then serve it up to business managers, executives through online dashboards, through pivot reporting. It's just a very robust reporting environment that we can then serve it up. And we can configure that to the client's level. We have full security behind it. We can filter data as well as mask data based off of a user's security.
Okay. And what's your target market looking for in an LMS, and how has that changed?
Learning is just one of those tenets, one of those silos, if you will. I believe what organizations are really looking for is efficiency on getting their staff and their people, with a level of confidence that they can do the work and are going to be available to do the work when the work changes, right? When something new happens, it's all about keeping your workforce up to date with the next thing. I think that's really what they're looking for. There's a lot of variety out there in terms of content, in terms of learning management systems. So our position is, your best to breed, do what works for you, but let us help figure out how it can integrate into your whole HR stack and make better reporting of them.
Okay. Now let's talk about you, the entrepreneur. So I talk to a lot of people. I talk to the 80-hour-a-week workaholics. I talk to the people who have people who can run their business all the time. What about you? How do you balance work and life? What's your approach?
I wish I could say I do it better, but it's a challenge. As an entrepreneur with a small company, I always feel like I'm at the beck and call of our clients. And that's fine because we've established those relationships and we have great relationships with our client. I wish I could balance that better, but it's a challenge. And sometimes you feel, I come home sometimes and I'm like, yeah, I got punched in the face today, literally. No, I'm just kidding. But there are those challenging days. But when you have a client that's able to say, look, hey, Keith, this made a difference in our organization. We were able to save X amount of money. We were able to reduce the time in this. Now that's where I get a lot of joy and satisfaction. When I can see those progress, when I can see the value being realized by the client, that's what brings me satisfaction.
Okay. Do you balance in some time for whether it's like personal development or business education? Do you do anything like that?
Yeah, we have a great team here and we've got some really bright people. So we spend a lot of time looking at, I know this is going to sound rather geeky, but looking at new statistical models, there's Gen AI. We find it really exciting to talk about, hey, did you check out this new environment? Look how fast it's able to do this. Did you read this article? So we pass a lot of information around. And for us, it's somewhat pleasurable, and we really enjoy that geek side of us to learn something new. So yeah, and it's great having a team where we can bounce those ideas and have those conversations and discuss those things with like-minded people.
Okay, you said the word, I didn't. AI.
Yeah.
How is AI affecting your business now, and how do you think it's going to affect your business in the future?
From our advantage point around workforce analytics, it's huge. But let's break down AI into two areas. So there's model generation for predictive models, which we use AI for, and some really great algorithms that can help us build fantastic predictive models. So that's a form of artificial intelligence that we use from a predictive perspective. On the other side, there's a generative AI, the large language models that understand language extremely well, but we use both. So we're always looking for new AI models for predictions and correlating, and classifying, but we're also looking at utilizing generative AI in a lot of different ways. And from the marketplace and our competitors, yes, some of them are really making great advancements in that space. The first area that we are seeing it is where systems are able to use Gen AI. It's really around their systems metadata. And it helps clients by maybe saving a couple of clicks. For example, a client might go and say, hey, I want to know more about our headcount as it relates to turnover, as it relates to the amount of training we've done in the last 3 years. The generative AI can understand that statement, look over top of the system's metadata and say, here are a couple of graphs. Here's a dashboard that's going to help you understand that more. Here are a few pivot tables that are going to get you what you're looking for. Or maybe even will help write a query statement of some sort. And that's great. And that saves some time. But we're thinking that there's more to it than that. We're thinking that the generative AI could be used not just against an organization's metadata, but against the raw data as well. We see generative AI having two main aspects. One, summarization. If you want to say, an executive may say, can you summarize my employee and employee turnover information for the last 2 years? Then instead of looking at just our metadata, it's going into the raw data. It's going into that organization's record data. And it's saying, oh, okay, now it's going to be able to come back and identify, well, there were some major gaps in this organization, or during this time period, you had an uptick of this. So it's going to be a good at summarizing large amounts of data. The next would be then after summarization to have that conversation to continue to drill in. Oh, okay, tell me more about the gap in pay between these two organizations. Okay, tell me, so it's going to be, again, over top of client data, not just the metadata, but actually the data. Tell me more about, these people between these time periods. I think that's something that's unique that you haven't seen out there yet.
Yeah, I love what you're saying with AI, because I feel like there's this AI that's changing the world and having a positive impact. Not just the time that you're able to save, but the analysis. And even if it gets you, let's say 75, 80% there, then you got to use your brain to get to the final 100%. I think so many times we hear AI, and when we want to roll our eyes, especially the world I live in with the creative class, is like this uncreative nonsense. Oh, we're going to have movies from the robots. We're going to have even just something simple as blog posts from the robots. We all know what ChatGPT sounds like now. And it's such a small speck of something that's so much bigger and is changing the world in such a better way. And so I'm always excited when I hear about the type of technology that's actually making things better for the world. It's making it easier for you to do your job. I recently was talking to an investment banker, and he was like, the first 4 years of work and the analysis that I did is completely replaced by the robots. Completely.
Right.
So how are you, and you obviously are leveraging AI for a lot of the things that you're doing. How has your adoption of AI, how has that affected your staffing needs as you build everything out?
If anything, it's increased our staffing needs because we're looking at additional ways to utilize AI in our space. And for example, I talked about the two branches, like generative AI and so machine learning for predictions and classifications and so forth. We've used that quite a bit where we come up with a prediction, good quality prediction for a client. But often what they say is, that's great, but how'd you come up with that prediction? And why is you've got two people, you predict this person is X and this person is Y, and they're fairly similar Y. We've also developed something called explainable AI so that we can take those instances and roll them backwards through the model to say, from an AI perspective, you have all these features that go into a model, but each prediction uses those features differently based off of decision trees and so forth. So you got a good prediction, but that's only so far because people want to know how and why that happened. As we send it back through the model, we can say, use this feature as a mark to indicate that prediction is going to go this way. And then another feature brought it down, and then another brought it up. So it's being able to go back through that model to tell the client, look, this is how, take, for example, a prediction about flight risk. We saw that they had 2 promotions, so that really made them stay longer. But then they had a supervisor and they had 2 supervisors in the last 2 years. And because of that's going to, the model said that's going to reduce their potential to stay. And then take that all the way across of all the features that go into the model. Then take someone else that had fairly similar but different. It's going to tell you, what each of those features did for coming up with that prediction. And, we found clients when they're looking at, say, some of our competitors, they'll get that flight risk number, they'll get that predictor, but they lose confidence in it if they don't understand where the data came from and how it was used in generating that model. And a lot of systems with their black box, they're going to say, yep, here's your prediction. And maybe they used your data and 20 other client data. But we like to generate our predictions around our clients' data. So we don't want to pull data into it, even though if it's benchmark and so forth. We want to make sure clients feel they're unique and their data's unique. Bringing something outside may not work for that. And then, of course, being able to explain this is all the stuff that went into your model. So that's important. But to answer your question, it's really generated a need for more people to help with that modeling and build out those processes to get the client what they need.
It's awesome. I wish I was smart enough to ask you more detailed follow-ups when it comes to that stuff. I think it's so fascinating, and it's really cool how fast things are evolving and how we're going to be able to deliver that. So I want to get you out of here with this last question. So obviously you've been on a 15-year journey, right? And you're at a place where you're now doing all this crazy stuff with AI. You're working with big government organizations. What advice would you give yourself when you were starting out, and or somebody who wants to start in your space right now?
Great question. I would say learn from mistakes. And when something's not working, quickly pivot and move on. Often, especially being analytical, we may hit a wall and we'll continue to bang our head against that wall. So that would probably be one thing I would say to someone is, look, as soon as it's not working, as soon as you hit that wall, pivot, move on. That's always good advice, isn't it?
Fail, pivot, fail again until you pivot in the right direction.
What do they call it? Fail smart, right?
Oh, okay. I always go fail up. Fail smart, fail up. Either way. This has been awesome. So where can the audience find you?
Yeah, so if they'd like to carry on the conversation, I'd be more than happy to. I can be reached on LinkedIn at Keith A. Goode. Of course, feel free to reach out to ZeroedIn. Our website is ZeroedIn.com. A lot of great information there. And again, we're always happy to carry on the conversation. As I mentioned before, we get excited about talking about these things, especially about what can add value to someone. If it's not adding value, it might be cool, but we really need to look at the value that's being added.
Well, I loved hearing the passion for all the things you do, and I'm sure your clients do as well. Keith, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Austin.